Welcome back, everybody, to the Miami Marlins franchise here on MLB The Show 23. Today we've got a pretty busy episode here nearing the All-Star break and the MLB draft. Last episode we went through the end of June and the team did not play very well, getting swept by both Toronto and Atlanta, albeit they are arguably the two best teams in baseball, but it would have been nice to be a little bit more competitive, bringing our record back under 500 at 42-43 with the trade deadline just a few weeks away. We've got a number of pieces who we could sell off at the deadline, but if we are competing for a wild card spot, we are also going to buy as well. We haven't been very busy on the trade market this year. We've only made one trade so far, but we're actually going to make two today. The first one involves Minnesota Twins reliever Jorge Alcala. He has not been good this year. 15 home runs allowed and not even 45 innings. But he's got some nasty stuff. 99 velocity, 93 break, and he has pretty much no trade value of how poor he has played this year. So all we have to give up is J.D. Orr. Minnesota's trying to cut their losses with a guy who they think is not very good, and we're going to try to fix him. Alcala will be inserted into the Major League bullpen, and hopefully we will be able to fix him. I've had success with him in other MLB The Show simulations in the past, so hopefully he just stops allowing the long ball. The other trade we're going to make involves another player who is kind of failing expectations with Keston Hiura from the Brewers. Joey Wendle is the big piece of the deal. He's an okay infielder. He's a free agent at the end of the year, and while he hasn't been bad this year, I don't want to pay him. I say pay him in air quotes because he's probably going to make less money on the open market than he is now. Milwaukee could use some more depth in the infield, maybe a new second baseman, which is where Wendle can play. As for Keston Hiura, he used to be a top prospect, and the Brewers are just cutting their losses. Hiura has not played in the major leagues since last year. In 2019, as a rookie, he was awesome, but since then, he hasn't been all that good. I will say in 2022, he wasn't horrible. He hits righties pretty well. At least he's got good pop. In AAA, he's been okay. He will immediately be inserted onto the big league roster, and he will start against right-handers immediately. He's got 3 years of team control left, and we're hoping that we can kind of fix him. We also have a swap of outfielders, Brady Allen for Hendry Mendez. Mendez has more potential, and he's 19 years old, so I figured I would take the upgrade. He'll probably start in either single-A or double-A. So we add Jorge Alcala and Keston Hiura, two guys who had really good starts to their careers but have gone downhill since. We're hoping we can fix both of them. Hiura can play first base, he can play second base, and he can play the corner outfield spots. We do need to send somebody off the Major League roster, and it'll be Devin Smeltzer, who just recently was called up. He hasn't performed horribly, but we have to send somebody down, and there's nobody else who I really want to remove from the big league roster at the moment. We are also going to be swapping Jesus Luzardo for Sixto Sanchez. Sanchez was inserted into the big league rotation in late May, and he has been bad. He needs to go back down to the minors. Luzardo, on the other hand, has done well in AAA after a disastrous start through the first couple of months of the season. So Hiura slides into the lineup against righties. Luzardo will return to the rotation, and Jorge Alcala will enter the bullpen. So the team looks a little bit different. We're shaking things up here. We're going to play this last game against the Cardinals. Later today, don't forget, we will also be having our MLB draft preview for the draft, which will be in the next episode. We would get some unfortunate news on the injury front. Joe Mack, one of our catching prospects, tore a finger ligament, and he will be out for 2 to 3 months, which is basically the rest of the minor league season. That's unfortunate because Mack is one of the better hitting prospects within the organization. So we're certainly hoping he'll be back for the minor league playoffs, which I do anticipate the AA team will be participating. Jorge Alcala also suffered a minor injury as well. So we ended up going 1-2. We beat the Cardinals 4-0 in the first game, but we lost the last two. The second game was Keston Hiura's debut. He went 1 for 3 with a double and a walk. Jorge Alcala pitched as well. Didn't look all that good, allowing a run. He did pitch better in the second game, but he also got injured, which kind of sucks. So that'll bring us to this last game. The Marlins are going to look to split the series at 2 here at home against a strong St. Louis Cardinals team who's got a number of talented players, obviously Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt leading the way. The Cardinals are 47-39 and certainly in the mix for a playoff spot, whether they take the division or end up dragging a wild card spot. As for the Marlins, they're looking to get back on track. The team has not been playing all that well recently, really ever since Jazz Chisholm got injured. That's when things have gone downhill. Jesus Luzardo is making his first start in the big leagues in over a month. His first 11 starts this year were a disaster. He threw more walks than strikeouts. His whip was almost at 2, his ERA at 7. Just not good. Tommy Edman starts it off with a liner to third, and Segura will not be able to make the play as he has trouble feeling it, and that'll go for an infield single. So the Cardinals start the game with a base runner. Edman looking to steal second, and he is out of there. It's actually a double play. Donovan struck out, and then Jacob Stallings behind the plate threw out the runner. Stallings getting the start at catcher today with Nick Fortes getting the day off as Paul Goldschmidt strikes out on the sinker. Pretty good first inning for Jesus Luzardo. Does not allow any runs, which has been a rarity for him. Miles Michaelis is getting the start for the Cardinals, 3.31 ERA on the season. He'll start with Luis Arraez, hitting just above 300 on the season. As Arraez hits this one into right field, that'll go for a base hit. And the Marlins open up this ball game with a base runner. Arraez on second now for Garrett Cooper. He's been Miami's best hitter this year other than Jazz Chisholm. He hits this one high and deep in right field, and that ball is gone into the bullpen. Two-run shot for Garrett Cooper, and the Marlins are on the board first here in the bottom of the first inning. Cooper with his 13th home run of the season, trying to push himself into an all-star spot. Jesus Sanchez up next. He lines this one into right center field. That'll go for a base hit. Sanchez is hitting under 200. He's had a pretty rough season, but he has been performing better these recent weeks since recovering from his injury. That'll bring up Keston Hiura now, the 3-2. He's looking at the slider for a walk. So Hiura reaches base, and that'll bring up Avisail Garcia, who's got a nice opportunity to do some damage. And that he does as he rips it into left field for a hit. Sanchez will look to score, and he does. It's an RBI single for Avisail Garcia, and the Marlins lead it 3-0 here in the first inning. Let's go top two. Nolan Arenado's had a pretty rough year for his standards, but he singles into left field. And the Cardinals open up the inning with a base runner as they try to get on the board. Dylan Carlson hits lefties really well, but he swings and misses at the low sinker. That pitch well out of the strike zone. Luzardo's second K of the day. That'll bring up Tyler O'Neill now. Looks at a sinker high and away right down the middle. I don't know what he was waiting for. Luzardo strikes out another one. Can he get one more K? Yes, he does. Lars Nootbaar, the international sensation, strikes out. Luzardo with 4 punch-outs here through the first 2 innings. He's looking good. I know it's early, but he's been impressive. Luis Arraez is up in the bottom of the second, and he will get another base hit. Arraez singled and scored in the first inning, and he's going to look to do it again. That'll bring up Jean Segura now. Full count with 1 away, and Segura grounds this one up the middle. It'll be a 6-4-3 inning-ending double play. The Marlins don't get as much success there as they did back in the first inning. Let's go top 3 now. The catcher, Ivan Herrera, hits this one into right. That'll drop for a hit. The Cardinals get a base runner here with 1 away. Herrera hoping to be the long-term replacement for the legendary Yadier Molina. 2 away for Brendan Donovan. He draws a walk on the sweeping curve. So now there's 2 on and 2 away for the reigning MVP, Paul Goldschmidt, who also draws a walk. The Cardinals have loaded the bases. Huge opportunity here for Nolan Arenado. He's got a 1-2 count. Luzardo looking to get out of the jam as Arenado grounds it to third. Segura jumps on it, and the throw to first is way overthrown. Was that Zach Wilson dropping back to pass? Oh my goodness. That'll go as an error. 2-run score, and it's now 3-2. The second run will be unearned because of the error from Jean Segura. So it's now a 1-run game. Not to mention, the Cardinals have 2 runners in scoring position for Dylan Carlson. He'll hit it into center, and it is caught by De La Cruz. What a catch by Brian De La Cruz, saving 2 runs from being scored. De La Cruz's reaction to that ball was terrible. He started to go backwards, but then he's just barely able to make the grab to end the inning. If he doesn't catch that ball, the Cardinals would have the lead right now, but De La Cruz makes an awesome defensive play, and Miami stays on top. Let's go top 4. Tyler O'Neill draws a walk on the circle change. Luzardo's pitch count is very high. It's at 83. O'Neill tries to steal second, and he is out of there. Jacob Stallings throws out another runner. Part-time ball player, full-time sniper. 2 away for Jordan Walker now. Hits this one high and deep in the left center. De La Cruz will make the play. That'll end Jesus Luzardo's outing. 4 innings, 2 runs allowed, 1 earned. It wasn't perfect, but overall I feel pretty good with how Jesus Luzardo pitched today, and hopefully he can keep it going post-All-Star break. Bottom 4, Castanheira leads off the inning for the Marlins, showing off that pop against right-handed pitching. That ball goes a mile into the air. Eventually will be caught out and left, but it is good to see Hero with solid contact off the bat. He was playing pretty well in the minors this year with the Brewers AAA team, Nashville. Hopefully he can perform here in the big leagues. Avisail Garcia is out. That was a close play. Manager Skip Schumacher, however, does not think that the umpire made the right call, and the Marlins will challenge if Garcia was out at first. So let's take a look at this replay right there. The foot's on the bag before the ball is in Goldschmidt's glove. A smart challenge by Miami, and this one is certainly going to be reversed. I think they're going to call it an infield single for Garcia. It wasn't a bad defensive play, so there's going to be no error. And there you go. The play is unsurprisingly overturned. An infield single for Avisail Garcia, who's now 2 for 2 today. That'll bring up Jacob Stallings next. The 1-2 pitch. Stallings grounds it over to short. And it looks like that challenge is going to be all for nothing as the Marlins ground into an inning-ending double play. Score remains 3-2 going into the top of the 5th. The long reliever Braxton Garrett is into the game. He's been solid this year. I wouldn't say he's been great, but he hasn't been terrible. 4.03 ERA. His day will not start off all that well as Tommy Edman hits it into right center. That'll go for a base hit, and the Cardinals have an early runner aboard. Brendan Donovan is up next. Grounds it over past Segura. That'll go for a single into left field. So now there's 2 runners aboard and a big opportunity for St. Louis to take the lead. Paul Goldschmidt goes down looking on the circle change. Nice pitch by Garrett. That'll bring up Nolan Arenado, who lines it into left field. That'll go for extra bases. The Cardinals should be able to tie the game. They're going to look to take the lead. The throw from LeBlanc at short. He is out of there! So the Cardinals tie it. It's an RBI double for Arenado, but they're unable to take the lead as Donovan is tagged out at home. St. Louis does tie it, however. We'll see if the Marlins can respond. Miami has not scored since the first inning, and they're going to look to change that here in the 5th. Charles LeBlanc leads it off for Miami. He'll draw a walk. I think LeBlanc has been pretty good since being called up to the big leagues, and he's going to continue to get playing time as long as he produces. Luis Arraez up next, 2 for 2 so far. Going to try to make it 3 for 3. Rips this one into right center field as it one-hops off the wall. LeBlanc looking to score all the way from first, and he does. It's an RBI double for Luis Arraez, and the Marlins are right back on top as it is now 4-3. Gene Segura has that ball go right by him, and Arraez will advance to third off of the wild pitch. So now the Marlins have the runner 90 feet away from home with nobody out. 1 away now for Brian De La Cruz. The 3-2, he draws a walk. This is not the worst case scenario, I think, for the Cardinals because now a ground ball could lead to a double play. It will not be with Miles Michaelis in the game, but instead the reliever, Jake Woodford. He'll face off against Garrett Cooper, who homered earlier in the day. He has a 3-1 count and lines this one into center. That one is caught. Arraez will look to score. The throw to the plate is in time! So both teams throw out runners trying to get home. That was Dylan Carlson who pegs him down. Whoa, pause. That sounds bad out of context. So the Marlins drive in 1, but it's still only 4-3. Carlson, who just threw out the runner in the 5th inning, starts the 6th inning off strong as that one is into left for a double. I don't know why nobody was covering second. That seems odd, but the Cardinals are the runner in scoring position for Tyler O'Neill, who launches this ball into left field. That one is gone into the seats, and the Cardinals take their first lead of the day off of a 2-run shot by Tyler O'Neill, his 11th homer of the year. Garrett will be taken out of the game. He'll be replaced by the veteran Matt Barnes, who's pitched very well over the last month or so. He gets Lars Nootbaar in a check swing on the circle change. Jordan Walker now, the Cardinals' top prospect, hits this one high and deep into center, and De La Cruz makes a great play, grabbing it. De La Cruz has been awesome in center field tonight. He's made a few really big grabs. Bottom 6 now. Jesus Sanchez leads it off as he hits this one into right center field well, and that one is gone into the St. Louis bullpen. This game is tied at 5. Sanchez with his 8th homer of the year. Really good to see him hitting the ball well today. We've obviously got big hopes for him going forward. And we've got ourselves a back-and-forth ball game here in South Beach. A big swing for Sanchez. We'll see if the Marlins can possibly look to take the lead. Woodford remains in the game for St. Louis as he strikes out Keston Hiura on the outside slider. Nice pitch. Jacob Stallings is now up to 2-2. He splits that one right through his legs for a single into center. Stallings has done a good job as the backup catcher. He's hitting around 260 this year. He's thrown out 2 runners today. That'll now bring up Charles LeBlanc, who has a 3-1 count. That pitch is inside for a slider, and that'll be a walk. So now there's 2 runners aboard and 2 away for Luis Arraez, who has reached base in every single at-bat today, 3 for 3. He'll keep the streak going as he draws a walk on the circle change. The bases are now loaded. A huge opportunity for Gene Segura with 2 away, bases juiced, tied game, and Segura capitalizes! This ball is gone into left field! A grand slam for Mean Gene! And the Marlins take a 9-5 lead. Segura with his 6th homer of the year, and it is a grand salami. A huge play for the Miami Marlins. Gene Segura with one of the biggest hits of the season, if we're being completely honest here. 4 will score. Woodford is knocked out of the game. He'll be replaced by the lefty, Zach Thompson, who has a 4.64 ERA, trying to get out of the inning against Brian De La Cruz, who has really struggled against lefties this year. Grounds it to third. Nice throw by Arenado, but a big inning for the Marlins as they score 5 with a solo homer to start things off by Jesus Sanchez, followed by a 2-out grand slam by Gene Segura to put Miami ahead by 4 going into the 7th inning. Steven Okert is in for Miami, his 39th appearance of the year. He has an ERA at exactly 3. He's been quite solid, but he does allow a homer here into right by Brendan Donovan, making the score 6-9. Nice. Little lefty-on-lefty crime there, and it's Donovan who wins that battle for his 7th home run of the season. The Cardinals trying to climb back into this game. They've done really well against Miami's bullpen today, and they're going to keep it going. The very next batter, Paul Goldschmidt, the reigning National League MVP, hits it into the Clevelander for a solo shot. His 17th of the year. Donovan and Goldschmidt go back-to-back. Okert is knocked out of the game. He'll be replaced by A.J. Puck, who has a 4.44 ERA. A lot of 4s for Puck, who has been pretty good over the month of June. He strikes out Nolan Arenado on the slider. Arenado frustrated. Did he think that pitch was a ball? Is he blind? Oh, I'm sorry. We have Helen Keller up to the plate, apparently. Next up is Dylan Carlson. He strikes out on the circle change. Not a bad inning, though, for the Cardinals as they homer twice, cutting the lead in half. Bottom 7, the pinch hitter, Yuli Gurriel, gets plunked. That's one way to reach base. That'll bring up Jorge Soler. We know he's got a lot of power against lefties, but he swings and misses on the low 12-6 curve. Soler got a little aggressive there. Wanted to swing for the fences. Doesn't get so lucky. Into the 8th inning now, J.T. Chargois checks into the game for the Marlins, facing off against Tyler O'Neill. This one is hit high and deep into right field. Soler at the track, at the wall. It is gone. Solo home run for Tyler O'Neill. His 12th of the year, his 2nd of the ball game. The Cardinals with 4 homers in the last, 4 innings? And it's now 9-8. Soler had a chance to rob that one. It was really close, and I think he timed it well, but he just was not able to make the play. So now it's 9-8. The Cardinals climbing back into the game as Jordan Walker strikes out. Good pitch by Chargois. Let's go bottom 8. 2 away for Luis Arraez, who rips it up the middle into center for a hit. Arraez has had 5 plate appearances today and has reached base all 5 times. He's 4 for 4 with a walk, 3 singles, and an RBI double. Gene Segura hit a grand slam last time. Hits this one well in a left field at the track, at the wall. It is caught. That one looked like it had a chance to go out. Would have been another big play by Segura. Let's go into the 9th now. Dylan Floro in for the save. He's been a little mediocre this year, and with only being up 1 run and the heart of the order up early for the Cardinals, this could prove to be bad. We'll start with the leadoff hitter, Tommy Edman. He grounds it to second. Luis Arraez makes a tough play for the first out of the inning. Good start. That'll bring up Brendan Donovan, who homered in his last at-bat. Donovan grounds that one past Floro and Arraez for a single. The tying run is now on base, and guess who's up next? The reigning National League MVP, Paul Goldschmidt. He has a full count, and that pitch will go for a walk. The potential winning run is now on base for Nolan Arenado, who has really struggled with runners in scoring position this year. Arenado gets the perfect pitch to hit, but he tops it into left field. It goes pretty deep. Jesus Sanchez will make the play. That was Arenado's opportunity. That slider was high and away right in the middle of the strike zone, and he topped it. So now there's 2 away, and Dylan Carlson is up. He hits this one well into left field. Sanchez chases after it, and he will make the grab, and the Marlins win a thriller. 9-8 is your final. Do you like offense? Well, this was the game for you. Both teams really hitting the ball well, and Miami squeaks away with the victory, splitting the series at 2 against the St. Louis Cardinals. St. Louis hit the ball really well down the stretch. Their offense was not great early, which I think is very indicative of Jesus Luzardo pitching quite well in this game. They homered 4 times. O'Neill had 2. Goldschmidt and Donovan went deep as well. Miles Michaelis and Woodford both really struggled, hence why they lost. We had a number of guys play really well for us on offense. Obviously, Arise reached base every single at bat he had. Cooper homered. Sanchez homered. Segura had the grand slam. And I think Jesus Luzardo pitched pretty well, especially considering the bullpen was not so good. So hopefully Jesus Luzardo can keep it up because I thought he was pretty solid. So normally this is where we would play the second game of the episode, but we've got a draft preview to go over. So I simulated to the draft first and foremost, and Sandy Alcantara ended up getting injured. He hurt his hip. It's not a big deal. He's only going to miss 1 to 2 starts. But the thing that kind of sucks about it is I don't think he will be recognized as an all-star now. He obviously would have if not for the injury, but now I don't think he will, so that's unfortunate. Luckily, we do win the first 2 games of this series against the Phillies, bringing us back over 500. Edward Cabrera, 8 2/3 scoreless innings. He's been pitching very well recently, which is great to see. I'm really happy with his development after he got off to kind of a slow start. And then we won the other game as well with Sandy starting and getting injured. So that'll bring us now to our draft preview. We're going to talk about some guys who we've already gone over. We're going to talk about some guys who we have not gone over yet. This is a really fun draft class. Keep in mind the Marlins picked 10th overall in the first round. All of our picks, you can see, are on the top left. So we're going to go by position. There's a ton of talent in terms of starting pitchers. A number of these guys the Marlins will be able to consider with their top pick. I think somebody who'd be a very solid selection for Miami at pick 10 is Ramon Ojeda from the Dominican Republic. We have fully scouted him, and we really like him. This is a guy who has a high floor and a high ceiling. He's a little bit on the small side, but he makes up for it with his skill. He throws really hard. He's got nasty break. His walks per 9 is his best per 9 attribute, and that's really important for me. Walks per 9 is a very important skill in this game. I think he's one of the more polished pitchers, and I think he's got a lot of upside. Ojeda will probably be gone by the Marlins pick, however. If he's not, he would be a great selection. But I think there are some other realistic candidates, one of whom is the 22-year-old lefty Heath Emerson out of TCU. Emerson's potential and rating to start off with is probably going to be even higher than Ramon Ojeda. He's likely to have at least 87 potential, which is a big deal. He's had a great season this year for the Horned Frogs in the Big 12. He throws just as hard and has just as good of break as Ojeda does. His walks per 9 is a little bit worse, but it's still his best per 9 attribute. I wish his hits per 9 was a little bit better. I think hits per 9 is the second most important per 9, and that seems to be his weakest skill overall. Our scouts have him lower than the actual draft rank, but I really disagree with that. I think Heath Emerson is absolutely a top 10 player in this draft class. He'll probably be on the board for our pick. There's a chance he's gone, but if he's not, he'd be a great candidate. There are some other good players here. Ray Castro, we passed him earlier, although he failed his physical. J.J. Diggs, Carlos Vasquez, both good options. I do really like Barton Williams, though, the native of Australia. He's a little bit more raw, and I think his possible potentials are a little bit more out there compared to some of the other pitchers we've looked at. This is him in the perfect game All-Star Showcase. He's got good stuff and throws pretty hard as well, and again, his walks per 9 is really, really good. Common theme with me, if you have good walks per 9, I'm probably going to like you as a prospect. I think he could be better right away than the other 2 guys we looked at, which is a surprise because Ojeda and Emerson, who we already talked about, are in their 20s. Williams is only 18 years old. In terms of depth, there is a ton of it with the starting pitchers. There's a lot of guys who we're going to like down the board, a number of whom I want to highlight. There are some possible steals down the board as you look further along. Christopher Rice is a guy who we want to scout more, but we do really like. Robbie Jones, of course, our scouts have him in the top 10. Steve Garcia is really good. Gustavo Armas, our scouts have him in the top 10 as well. So we're going to start with Christopher Rice, who we have not talked about yet this year. Rice is 18 years old. I think we're going to scout him more during this final stage because he is a guy I can see us considering with our late first-round pick that we have for being a small market team, or possibly our second-round pick. He's a righty. He's a big dude, 6'5", 208 pounds. Again, his walks per nine is his best per nine attribute. That's another reason why I really like him. His possible ratings and potential, the range is very large. That's why we're going to scout him more to hopefully get more information prior to the draft. But I think he could be a great potential middle-round gem for the Marlins. There are some pitchers who could be mid-round gems who we already know a little bit more about, including Robbie Jones of the Netherlands. His draft projection is 63rd, but our scouts believe he is the 6th best player in the entire draft class. This is definitely a player I plan on targeting in the second round. His possible potential range is a little bit wide, but he will most likely have at least B potential. He is a little bit on the raw side, but I do like his long-term outlook as a possible starter in our rotation. Again, his walks per nine is his best per nine attribute. He throws hard. He has good break. The strikeouts are not good. He's not good at striking guys out, but he does have good stuff to where it's hard for opposing hitters to consistently hit good contact off of him. And at only 18 years old, I do really like him. The other guy I really want to look at in this range is Gustavo Armas, the 18-year-old lefty from Venezuela. We only have him 55% scouted. He is a total wild card. His potential goes as high as 98, so the ceiling with him is sky high. However, he could be in the 40s in terms of his overall rating. His potential could be a C, and along with that, he opted out of his physical exam. So there's a lot of questions in terms of his health. Pretty good walks per nine, pretty good strikeouts per nine, pretty good stuff overall. He's a total wild card, but I think in the second or third round, he'd be worth a flyer. I think our scouts are overrating him, though. I don't think he's the 8th best player in this draft class. There's some of those first-round pitchers were rated lower than him, which I completely disagree with. Some other guys to watch out for down the board include Fernando Cortez. Robbie Frazier's an interesting player. Maybe we look at him in like the 4th round. Manny Ramiro, we know his potential is going to be good. Same with Johan Cora as well. Both of them are pretty much guaranteed Bs. Let's look at the relievers now, starting with Adrian Leon, who, to be honest, is more of a starter with his stamina. We have not scouted him at all because I don't think he's got any chance of falling to our pick, but I do want to take a look at him here. Leon plays for Ohio State, and he's been one of the best pitchers in college baseball this year. Again, you look at the stamina, he's really more of the starter. All of his per nines look really, really strong. This is a guy who has a high floor, but he's also got a really high ceiling, and he could be very good right off the bat. Even though we haven't scouted him at all, our range for him in terms of potential and overall is actually slimmer than some of the 18-year-olds who we fully scouted. So I think we know enough about him for me to be confident in picking him at 10. Then, yes, I don't think he's going to fall that far. There is some really good depth in terms of the relievers as well, but other than Leon, I can't see us picking a reliever early. I just think in terms of positional value, that'd be a mistake. But there are some guys later down the board who I like. Greg Gaucho's an interesting player. Stanley Sasaki's going to have good potential. Same with Ken Suzuki, all of whom could be very good value picks in the 4th round and beyond. In terms of closers, we've just started scouting some guys. There aren't a ton of players I really like here. And again, we're not going to be picking a reliever with our first few draft picks, but I'm not opposed to doing it later. The only problem is there aren't really as many gems down the board, except for one. Alex Savage, another player out of Ohio State. His potential is going to be between 89 and 94 most likely, so he's probably going to have a potential. You'd think he'd be getting first-round looks, but that's not the case, and there's a clear reason why. The medical. He did not pass his physical. That is a major concern. Apparently his injury risk is low, but he got hurt. None of his per nines look all that solid, but he's got really good stuff. So I think he's a little bit raw, which is not ideal for a 22-year-old, but the potential is there if he can stay healthy, which with him having a low injury risk but not passing his physical, I don't know. I feel like there's more mystery now. Let's take a look at some of the position players. There are some good catchers in this class, but the guy I really like is right here at the top with Joel Beltran. I think he'd be a really good candidate for pick 35 or 46. Our team has him ranked as the 37th best prospect in the draft, but I think that's a little bit disrespectful. Beltran has more pop than just about any college hitter in this entire draft class, and he's got a great arm as well. His contact and his plate skills have a whiles to go. Even in his prime in the majors, I don't think he's going to be anything more than like a 240 hitter and a guy who maybe gets to a 300 on-base percentage, but he hits for power, and I really like what he provides defensively. Even if he doesn't stick at catcher, he could always move over to third base because he's got a really, really good arm right off the bat. Sean Garcia is a kid with upside. He's intriguing, but I really like Joel Beltran more, and he's a guy who we may target at 35 or 46. There's only 2 first basemen projected in the top 100, but the top one I really like. Woody Landry. He's a high schooler from Georgia, 18 years old. He's got probably the best offensive upside of any player in this draft class, and he will definitely be in play for Miami's first-round selection at number 10 overall. I think he will be there, and he will definitely be a candidate for the selection. He doesn't have a great glove, but he does have a good arm. I think he projects more as a right fielder going forward, especially if he can clean up his defense. He's hit for pretty good contact. The power is absolutely there, and I don't think his plate skills are too bad either. He's got a little work to do, but I think he's got more offensive potential than any player in this entire draft class. First base has low positional value, but his offense might be too much to pass up for Miami at number 10 overall. I think down the board, Lamar Kubik, who is really raw but has good potential, might be the guy to watch out for, although he did opt out of his exam, but he could be an interesting late-round flyer. At second base, Darren Russell's a player who we really like, and another guy who we will certainly look at with either picks 35 or 46. Russell is a switch hitter from the University of Tennessee. He doesn't do one thing particularly well, but he's very well-rounded. He hits off of righties and lefties very well. He plays really good defense. He can play third base as well as shortstop. So I think this is just an all-around good player who's going to be a contributor in the big leagues for a decade. He is probably never going to be an elite player, maybe never an all-star, but really, really solid all around. Are there some gems to look out at second base? There is Dominique Sierra. We talked a little bit about him a couple episodes ago, another switch hitter. In terms of potential, you got Henry McMahon, who could be really good, and then Frank Slade as well is kind of in the same boat, too, if you want to draft for upside later in the draft. At third base, William Rosales could be an interesting contender for Miami's first-round pick. His draft projection is 8. His team rank is 32, but I think that's a little bit disrespectful. Maybe he doesn't have the upside that, say, like Woody Landry at first base does, but he's going to be really good right off the bat, coming out of the University of Florida. And I do think his ceiling is really high. I think our scouts are honestly disrespecting him. Look at his potential ratings offensively. This is a guy who could become an elite hitter at the next level. Defensively, he's not great, but he's one of, if not the best hitters in college baseball right now, and we will certainly look at him at pick 10. Brian Ball, another first-rounder. We didn't even scout him. I'm just not that intrigued by his skill set. Manuel Rivas is here. We talked about him in one of the earlier prospect profiles. Then in terms of gems, Emil Vasquez is interesting. His potential is low, but he could be really good right off the bat. So he'll be a guy to watch out for around pick 100. Brad Silver, Willie Cairo, Robbie Friedrich. Those are more guys to potentially watch out for. Alvaro Ramirez as well, I do like quite a bit, along with Manny Ibanez. He's got some really good upside. It could be worse. It could be Julio Ramos here, who might be the worst prospect I've ever seen. Let's move over to shortstop. It's not great. There's only 3 guys projected in the top 100. I do want to look at Rusty West, who's a very fascinating player coming out of Oklahoma State. He's had a really good season this year. The potential is high. The rating will be solid right off the bat. The problem with him is the medical. He did not pass his physical exam. His injury risk is unknown. That scares me. I think that's why the team ranking is lower than the projection across the rest of baseball. But I do like him, and he might be a player we look to take a shot on, say, in the second or third round, as some of those other guys we like, say, like Darren Russell, Joel Beltran, or some of the pitchers are off the board. Jimmy Schaefer I like. He's another guy who could be really good right off the bat, even if the upside long-term is low. If you're looking for upside, though, Mickey Shell could be your guy, and if not him, another shortstop even further down the board, Carlos Miranda fits the bill. Both Miranda and Shell come from Illinois, interestingly enough. And then Peter Perez is another guy as well. He'll probably have at least B potential, but his early rating will be really bad. Out in left field, we have Ray Parsons, who I think is the best prospect in this draft. His potential is good. His rating is good. He's got a sweet left-handed swing. Hits for good power. Hits for good contact. Has good plate skills. Defensively, he's got some work to do, though. He doesn't have great range or athleticism. That's why he's been stuck out in left for UCLA. But if I had the #1 pick, I think I would probably pick him. This is a guy who I think can make an early impact and has all-star to potential superstar upside. I don't think you're looking at the next Mike Trout here, but I think he is going to be a phenomenal outfielder for a very long time in the major leagues. This is a guy who's a very safe prospect, but the upside is absolutely there as well. There is no shot he falls to 10, and if he does, well, I would be pleasantly surprised. Then you have Christian Lawrence coming from Santa Fe College in Gainesville, Florida. Why is Santa Fe College in Florida and not Santa Fe, New Mexico? I don't know. Lawrence is a very versatile player. He can play everywhere in the outfield, along with catcher and first base. He's a little bit small, but he's got good plate skills and good contact. Despite his versatility defensively, he doesn't have a great glove, and his power is probably never going to be very good. But he's a guy who could be a solid early of the lineup hitter if he lives up to his upside. Reggie Gillian, Darrell Bowden, some other guys down the board with upside who could be intriguing. Steven Takahashi as well, who isn't even ranked. Luford Blunt, we've scouted him heavily. Carlton Castro, I think we will scout him during this final stage. Derek Chavis is interesting, although he opted out of his physical exam. And then Thomas Riley right at the bottom, at least 80 potential most likely, so the upside with him is definitely high. Moving over to center field, we have Justin Kramer, the projected #1 pick in this draft class. His team rank is 9, so I don't think he would fall to 10, but if he does, he would certainly be in consideration. If any player has a shot to be a generational prospect in this draft, it's him. Only 18 years old, good contact. The power and plate skills are not bad. I would say they're above average. Defensively, he's fine as well. And while the floor is lower compared to a guy like Ray Parsons, the ceiling is honestly a little bit higher with Kramer. And then looking down the board, we fully scouted Tadahito Suzuki. We think he's a little bit overhyped, though. In terms of gems, there aren't many. Maybe Maurice Leal, Jonas Jimenez, possibly. But there's really not a lot of outfield depth in this class. And then in right field, there's only 2 top 100 prospects, including Gary Sato. He is Japanese. I think Sato lacks some great physical ability, but he's got a smooth swing, good contact, good plate skills, good defense as well. I'm not entirely sure if he's as good of a prospect as some of the other players that the Marlins are considering with their 2nd or 3rd pick, so he might be out of range for them. But if he slips a little bit, he could be worth a flyer, say, in the 3rd round, with him being the best right fielder in the class. I don't think that's likely, but with the MLB draft, you never really know. Julian Larkin could be a gem along with Vladimir Rodriguez. And yeah, there you go. That's the draft class in its entirety. It's a really fun group, and I'm very excited to see how the draft ends up shaking out within the next episode. We've got 3 picks in the top 50, including number 10 overall. So we've got a nice opportunity to really add some talent to the farm system. I think our scouts, for the most part, have done a really good job, and hopefully we will be rewarded with an awesome draft class. For those of you who have been around the channel for a little while, you know that I always make my draft episodes a big deal, regardless of what series it is. So you guys can imagine the next episode is going to be a very fun one. It will be premiering live on the channel, likely this Wednesday, April 12th. That's in 2 days. So if you would like to be there for the live premiere and find out live with everybody else who we end up drafting, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm really excited about it. So that's going to wrap up the episode. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace out.